Good morning. This is Kamyar Gaveci. I'm managing statewide integrated water management at the Department of Water Resources, and I want to welcome you to the second of two sessions for the orientation webinar, the Policy Advisory Committee of Update 2018 of the California Water Plan. I've had the opportunity and privilege to work on the water plan update since 2000, and I look forward to working with all of you in preparing update 2018. What I'd like to do is take just a few minutes to give you an overview of the objectives, things we'd like to accomplish in the webinar, and in so doing, do an agenda review and introductions of the DWR project team for Update 2018 here in the room. So these webinars, the one on Tuesday and today, are launching the public outreach and engagement effort for Update 2018. We have now convened a 30-member policy advisory committee. This webinar is intended to provide some initial information for the committee to prepare them for upcoming meetings and the work ahead. As all meetings of the Policy Advisory Committee, they are public meetings, and I know that we have a number of folks on the webinar who are not advisory committee members, but have worked on the water plan before and are going to be contributors throughout this process. The director, DWR Director Mark Cowan, sent out the formal invitation acknowledgement letters to the Policy AC members last Monday. Right now, what you should see on your webinar is the home page of the California Water Plan Update 2018, and folder is going to show where the meeting materials are. On the upper right, you can click on Meeting Materials. This is where we're going to post all the agendas and meeting materials for water plan public meetings throughout this effort. So by clicking on the October 11th and 14th, you'll see there's a list of Policy AC members. If you could click on that, Lou. So if you don't know yet and want to see who is participating on the Policy AC, please refer to the list. I hope you'll appreciate the diversity of the membership, and I suspect that you work with or are affiliated with the constituencies of many of these members. One of the things we're going to cover today, and Paul Massaro will give you an overview of the new direction and proposed content for Water Plan Update 2018. Then Lou Moeller is going to provide you some information about the Policy Advisory Committee's charge, the proposed meeting schedule and deliverables, and work plan, as well as some other related information. And then Jenny Marr will give you a preview of the Policy AC's first face-to-face meeting the morning of October 25th in Sacramento at the Auto Museum. And immediately following that meeting at the same location will be the first of 3 annual plenary meetings, and we'll give you a preview of what we plan to cover at that meeting. And then I wanted to also note we have Emily Alejandrino here today with us. She works closely with Anacita Augustinez, who head up our tribal engagement and consultation efforts. And we have scheduled a similar webinar for October 19th in the morning for convening the Tribal Advisory Committee. We also have in the room Lisa Butler and Kristen Pringle. They're with MWH, and they're providing us meeting support and facilitation support for this effort. They are actually running the webinar here, and as you participate there, they will be facilitating that exchange. And with that, I wanted to just briefly turn it over to Lisa Butler so she can give you some guidance on how to most effectively participate during this webinar.
Great. Well, thank you, Kamiar. So if everyone takes a look over at the control panel, and there will be a place where you can post questions. We'll track those questions for you, and there'll be different times during the agenda where you'll be able to type in things. If you have a really big desire to talk and we have time, I'll be happy to open your mic as well. We do recommend, though, that you be on your phone or that you have a computer headset if we do that. With that, I'll go ahead and turn the agenda back to Kamiar.
Okay, and thank you, Lisa. And I also wanted to note that Francisco Guzman is also here in the room, and he's been helping with a lot of the meeting support, all of the material, the website that we're using to basically facilitate and mediate this update of the water plan has been prepared and developed by Francisco, as well as the meeting materials and the posting. So a lot of thanks to Francisco for helping make this a more effective webinar. We also have Art Hinojosa in the room, and Art manages our Division of Integrated Regional Water Management, and he is a big partner and contributor, he and his division, to the water plan effort, and he will be participating in the meetings on October 25th, and you'll get a chance, if you haven't, to meet Art in person. So with that, what I'd like to do is go ahead and turn it over to Paul Macera. Paul will provide an overview of the focus of Water Plan Update 2018.
Yeah, thank you, Kamiar. This is Paul Macera. I'm the program manager for the Water Plan Update process. And as Kamiar just mentioned, what I'd like to provide for you this morning is a sampling of not only the focus of Update 2018, but also getting a little bit into at least a glimpse of many of the topics and organization of Update 2018. This is going to be a light touch across many topics. We will elaborate on virtually everything in this presentation at the October 25th meetings, as well as subsequent outreach and engagement opportunities. So I just wanted to quickly walk you through the storyline, if you will, of the approach for Update 2018. A significant driver behind what has shaped our approach is the Governor's Water Action Plan. The Brown administration released a plan in 2014 and then an update in 2016. The policy direction in that plan is going to substantially and has substantially shaped where we're headed with Update 2018. And in that vein and in pursuit and consistency with the action plan, we've identified 6 important intended outcomes of Update 2018. There have been a lot of recent state initiatives. What I mean by that is since the release of the last water plan, the 2013 California Water Plan, these state initiatives will be aligned and brought into the Update 2018 effort in a tangible way, which I'll describe shortly in a little more detail. Despite all these good initiatives, where there have been benefits derived, where there's expectations and ambitions that to enhance the way we manage water in California, there's still more work to do. And what we're kind of referring to as filling the gaps here is a big part of Update 2018. Two of the biggies, and I'll elaborate on this in a moment, two of the biggies are really developing a description of sustainability so that it becomes actionable, so that we can create policies in pursuit of sustainability, and also track and demonstrate progress towards sustainability in a tangible way. Since we can't obviously tackle every tough and thorny issue in California water management in one water plan cycle, we've identified 4 primary barriers that we are going to focus on overcoming for Update 2018. And what I mean by barriers are barriers to keeping us on a path towards sustainability. Key features that will enable us to overcome the barriers and key deliverables from this water plan I'll touch on as well. Then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on a breakdown of a state water finance plan. That is a big part of the Governor's Water Action Plan, Action 10 to be specific. I'd like to touch on that in a little more depth than these other topics, just to give you a glimpse of the construct and how we're framing the conversation and ultimately the plan going forward. And again, on October 25th, we'll go into more detail. And lastly, I want to leave us with a thought regarding the Longview and the fact that we are creating an approach, a framework, a construct that will have lasting value and actually increase in value over time. And I'll explain that also here in a moment. But starting with the Governor's Water Action Plan, the way that this has materially shaped Update 2018 is really sustainable water management is a key focus and goal of the Governor's Water Action Plan. It also provides cohesion across state agencies to actually align and get things done. It creates momentum for achieving the outcomes in the plan and by association, by extension, Update 2018. It also provides a consistent direction that we can rally behind as state agencies and at a local and regional scale in terms of implementing specific actions. But one thing I do want to mention also or acknowledge up front is that obviously DWR was not the primary author nor for that matter the owner of the Governor's Water Action Plan. So that being the case, we are engaging with the what we're terming Water Action Plan principles, so Cal EPA, CDFA, and Natural Resources Agency, as well as the respective departments within these agencies to truly make Update 2018 a state government water management plan.
It's Kamyar. I just wanted to also note that we have put a link on the materials, meeting materials to the Governor's Water Action Plan. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at this 19-page document, I strongly encourage you to do so.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to break down a little bit this Action 10 of the Governor's Water Action Plan, which is going to and has informed our approach to Update 2018, particularly some key features, which I'll talk about in a moment. But first of all, I wanted to recognize or acknowledge some whereases, if you will, in the Governor's Water Action Plan for Action 10. This frames up the rationale for our approach, as well as the impending solutions and recommendations that we'll be forming. And again, gives you a great indication of the focus of the next water plan update. So finance complexities. One of the recognitions is that we the big we, State of California, our local regional partners, a better and a common and more clear understanding of the immense finance complexities. Without a doubt. That was definitely a finding in the last water plan update of 2013. There's also broad recognition that in order to implement the actions in the action plan, as well as what we will be recommending in Update 2018, and for that matter, Update 2013, base budgets, local, state, federal, are generally inadequate for implementing these additional actions. And so that begs the discussion of, okay, so we have to have a little more innovative thought around finance. We need to align state government better behind common outcomes. That's a term you will hear repeatedly going forward as outcomes, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. This is also an important one. Really, state government needs to pivot from reacting to crises as they occur, many of them foreseeable, to getting out in front of them and being more proactive. Drought and flood are some key examples where we can be proactive in identifying actions that can stave off future, reduce risks of future flood and drought, again, for example. Given that we have an annual funding cycle with the state fund, there's bond funds that occur intermittently with infusions of funding. However, there's hundreds of billions, with a B, billions of dollars of investment need that has been identified in Update 2018. For the next water plan cycle, we're proposing, and the Governor's Water Action Plan calls for prioritization. We need to identify what's most urgent and important and create a shorter-term action plan, if you will, implementation plan for a 5-year period, and that's what we're proposing. I'll talk more about that in a minute. The key concept here is prioritization is critical. And then I alluded to this already earlier, that we need to be more stable and predictable and foreseeable funding sources in order to keep California, or put California, on a track towards greater sustainable outcomes in the future. So getting more specific about what we will do for Update 2018, as called for in the Governor's Water Action Plan. Removal of barriers to local and state funding. I want to also point out that there has been a lot of work and there's a lot of findings in Update 2013 in this vein. So Prop 218 is the prime example, experiencing a barrier at a local scale. There's many more in Update 2013. We'll bring those into the conversation on the 25th and going forward. Developing a water financing strategy. I alluded to this earlier, and this is what we are going to do for Update 2018, is develop a state government water investment strategy, and I'll talk about that in a minute, as well as a financing strategy. The investment strategy, what are the priorities? Financing strategy, how do we pay for it? And then there's more specific direction in the Governor's Water Action Plan for us to examine user and polluter and other types of fees as one possibility for providing more stable funding. So in pursuit of what is being called for in the Governor's Water Action Plan and other components of what we framed up for Update 2018, we have some key intended outcomes that we want to share. And again, this is, I think, a good indication of the focus of Update 2018. I've already mentioned this a couple times, but really the key is to put and keep California on a trajectory towards increased sustainability. So how do we do that? Well, I think one way is to actually enhance the effectiveness of existing and future state policies and investments, ensuring that they're meeting those intended outcomes. That's that word again that I flagged earlier that we'll be talking about more going forward, identifying intended outcomes, identifying policies to meet it, and then tracking progress to make sure that did those actions meet those intended outcomes. So you can kind of see the flow of logic that we're going with here in terms of the framework for Update 2018. So more specifically, we will be preparing a 5-year investment strategy. So it's priority policies and investment for state government at a statewide scale, and I want to also emphasize at a regional scale the opportunities for state government to enhance and build capacity for water management at a regional scale. That's included within the scope of this 5-year investment strategy. And then, of course, the finance plan that would be required to fund the policies and investment strategies that are articulated. So moving on to aligning with other state plans and initiatives that are grounded with an objective of sustainability, a common objective of sustainability. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act was a true game changer in the state of California's role in managing groundwater, but also in redefining the state's role, and for that matter, regional governance, local governance for managing water at that scale, surface and groundwater ultimately because of the interaction. Proposition 1 in 2014 has $7.5 billion for investment in water-related activities. A good chunk of it is for increased storage in California. The Governor's drought executive orders in response to the significant and ongoing drought. The State government's role has been redefined to some extent, certainly changed in a more real-time manner in response to the drought emergencies. But nonetheless, this is a driver of where we will be going with 2018, is integrating these types of initiatives into one cohesive statewide water management plan. And lastly, alignment of state plans. That was certainly something that was accomplished in the last water plan, where we brought in dozens of state government water-related plans, which yielded over 300 recommendations. The task now for Update 2018 is really to sharpen those recommendations and develop those priorities. So despite the significant investment, the significant policy, the game-changing laws since the release of the last water plan, more must be done. So keep in mind that the water plan is it can have some tactical recommendations, and it will on a 5-year basis, as well as a long-term strategic plan. So flood risk, current and projected flood risks in many areas of the state are absolutely unacceptable. Unreliable water supplies are a common occurrence in many sectors and many regions of California. Also, I'll just add current and projected. Current depletion, continued depletion of our groundwater resources. There is a time frame for SGMA, and in the interim, degradation and depletion of groundwater resources is likely to continue at some level. So we'll broach that conversation as part of Update 2018. And habitat and species declines, which warrants probably little explanation. It is occurring on different scales in different regions of California as well. One thing I'll add too, regarding the existing initiatives and the need to do more, we're also providing a venue, a forum, a platform for discussing what types of policies need to occur to enhance some of the stuff that's already occurring, some of these initiatives I showed you on the previous slide. So we're not just taking the long view, we're actually taking the long view while integrating the current activities, projecting how successful they're going to be, and more importantly, tracking progress. So before I move on, let me pause and ask if there are any questions. I believe we're entertaining questions, but typed questions, correct? Did we?
If you have a question, feel free to type it in and go ahead and put it into the queue.
Did we orient folks on how to do that?
Yeah, there's if you take a look at the control panel, there's a great spot to write in, and if people wanted to talk, I'd be happy to open their mic. They just need to make sure they're on the phone if they have a headset.
Okay. Okay, and we'll also...
You must be making perfect...
Outstanding. We'll also pause at the end for questions, too. I'm sure time will permit. So in the same vein of more must be done, one of the key initial steps is really for us to have a common understanding of what sustainability is. We've talked about it for a decade or more as an ideal at many levels and many scales of government and many contexts. The true innovation for Update 2018 is we've defined it in a way that it can be tangibly pursued. What that means is it will enable us to shape a policy that allows us to track towards sustainability, and then just as importantly, allows us to track progress and course correct along the way. So the point here really is that we will not find ourselves in the future in a position where we can declare ourselves sustainable. It's not a destination. It will not be accompanied with a declaration as such. It's actually a journey, and it's a contiguous management process that will involve adaptive management, which I'm kind of alluding to and we'll elaborate on shortly. And there's a couple other, I think it's also helpful sometimes to describe what it's not. And really, it's the project scale tweaks and refinements of the existing system is not going to get us to statewide water management sustainability. Those types of actions are absolutely necessary. They're absolutely beneficial. We're just saying they're insufficient for bringing California and maintaining a track towards sustainability at a statewide scale. A similar notion is the fact that there are a handful of problems that can be solved. In other words, there's specific actions that can be taken, one and done. Put down the pencil, we're done, we've solved California's water problems. We're trying to dispel that paradigm in this process, and we're inviting others to kind of consider another paradigm, which is continuous management of a changing system and an evolving understanding of the system. So you can see with those two complexities of California water, an evolving understanding and a changing system, it is logically impossible to actually solve a problem with a specific solution. Part of that message, too, is that progress does need to be consistently tracked. You have to course correct. With California's water management system, we simply don't know in every case what an action will deliver in terms of bringing us on a track to sustainability. That's just a fact of the system, whether it's limited data or just the complexity of our lack of full understanding of all of the system components. So it's important that we keep that in mind and think about this is an opportunity, Update 2018, to use a consistent and cyclic pattern for investing, tracking, learning, and adapting. So continuing with the definition of sustainability, this is one more level of specificity. We actually have 3 more levels of description for each of these societal values, as we're calling them. And so we're defining or describing sustainability as not just these 4 things, it's a dynamic balance of these 4 things. And what we mean by dynamic balance is balancing our investment in these 4 categories based on the stakeholder input, based on the morphing and understanding of societal values and the system. So it is a continuous process, and it will require a dynamic balancing of these 4 attributes or values to be consistent. And again, these 4 concepts in abstract, they're pretty clear to us. I think everybody's aware of the 3 E's, economics, equity, and environment. This is a little bit expanded, but it's very consistent with that concept. I'll just flag the enriching experiences might be new for some folks. And the reason that is, we pulled that out, and we think it warrants its own descriptor because it's more than recreation. It includes how many religions derive spiritual well-being from water-based natural resources, for example. So it's broader than recreation, and we felt warranted its own category. But the core of the meaning of this really hasn't changed from the 3 E's that we've talked about again for a decade or more. So I talked about in the intro that we've identified 4 urgent and important barriers to sustainability that we will tackle for Update 2018. Shared understanding of sustainability, I talked about that a little bit and gave you kind of a glimpse of where we're headed in fostering that common understanding. Governance, we've talked about that a lot in Update 2013 and some of the challenges and opportunities to improve governance on many scales. Finance, I'm going to talk about in more detail here shortly. Regulations and permitting, the statutory framework, I just wanted to describe here for a moment the proper context. The example shown here is single species management. The point here, though, is that the current practice of focusing on compliance with prescriptions and compliance with regulations is not bringing California onto a track towards sustainability. And I really haven't heard anybody push back on that throughout the process of the last water plan. I think that statement still holds true. There's opportunities to enhance the effectiveness of regulation, for instance, in an ecosystem-based approach, for example, which again has been really in the water community conversation circles for many years. But we're elevating it as one of the 4 primary barriers to sustainability to be tackled for Update 2018. So some of the key features, obviously the goal, enhancing effectiveness of state government water investment and policy. And so the key features that will enable us to do that really is aligning those water initiatives that are occurring, water initiatives and plans, into a single prioritized, comprehensive state water policy and investment strategy with a time frame of 5 years. So that would be, for instance, 2019 to 2023, for example. So the planning horizon, if you will, for update 2018 of the water plan. And then I'll just mention also the accompanying finance plan is just as critical, obviously, you can develop the investment strategy, but if you haven't identified viable, stable ways to pay for it, then it's all for naught. So we're going to do both. A clear articulation of societal values. I showed you a little bit of the framework that we're proposing to do that. And again, we can drill down on each of those 4 societal values and get very specific about what those mean in a manner that enables us to track it. And that, to me, again, I'll emphasize, is I think one major innovation for this water plan. We're offering a structured and a more consistent prioritization method for creating that 5-year investment strategy. And then again, that all-important follow-up to ensure that our actions are effective, and where they're not, we can course correct and we can adapt. So what I'd like to do now is jump into a very high-level breakdown of what we're referring to when we say finance plan. That term conjures different notions at with all our different backgrounds and expertise and assumptions and baselines that we work from. We all have different understandings, and that was a finding actually from the last water plan as well. In engaging in a finance conversation, we really need to make sure that we're all speaking from the same data sets, from the same baseline assumptions, and so on, in order to be productive and come together behind a finance plan. I'm going to show you a breakdown of what we're going to do for Update 2018 in the way of a finance plan. I think each of these components are absolutely critical in order to create a viable, implementable finance plan. So step 1, set shared intended outcomes. Identify what those are, and those will be derived from those 4 categories that I showed you that help define sustainability. We need to do that up front. Otherwise, how can we possibly identify what specific actions and policies we need to take until we've identified what we want to accomplish? And I will clarify for those outcomes, I'm not referring to, for instance, completion of a project as an outcome or rate of expenditures as an outcome. I'm talking about the tangible benefits on the ground that we intend to derive from specific policies and actions, really breaking it down to the most esoteric of values that we get out of our actions and the benefits that we get out of our water management system. So setting intended outcomes, those will help inform what policies and actions tend to work best, which is the second component. So once we've identified, okay, these actions are feasible, they're cost effective, we expect them to actually attain the outcomes, what are the existing funding sources and opportunities, not only in quantity but also in stability? How foreseeable is it? How are the funding streams? Things that for maintenance, O&M, and so on, not just big infusions of capital investment, but the life cycle of an action or a policy. What is the existing funding to accomplish that? And then where are the funding gaps? So where are we falling short? And again, there's many findings in Update 2013 that we will recap on October 25th. So component 5 is really important as well, and we also learned this lesson in Update 2013. To begin a conversation regarding finance, we need to be absolutely clear about what we're proposing to finance, not only policies and actions, but state government activities. What will state government's role be? And I want to again emphasize for this action, this component, we're referring to activities that state government administers at a statewide scale and activities that state government administers to support regional capacity building, so at both scales. Funding demands. So we've identified the actions and policies. We've talked about what the state role would be going forward. That will enable us to get our heads around a quantitative estimate of what that would cost on an annual basis, on a life cycle basis, depending on what type of action. It would be a different funding demand approach to estimating. But component 6 is very important because that's basically how we determine what it would cost to accomplish the things framed up in steps 1 through 5. And then lastly, and certainly not least, is again, those effective funding mechanisms. What type of funding streams are required to support certain types of actions or policies? And there's capital-intensive actions and policies. There's ongoing. There's intermittent. So different funding streams patterns require different funding methods to be effective. So we need to talk about that and identify what works. And then lastly, we could call this progress reporting. Component A, return on investments, works for some as well. But the point here is we need to track, did we actually accomplish those intended outcomes that we developed up front? So set it and forget it is not an effective way of managing California water. We need to come back and say, did it actually work? And then if not, if you can envision the cycle, then we would go back to 1 and say, okay, are the intended outcomes, ground truth those, check, what have you. What are the actions and policies that we need to better accomplish those outcomes, assuming that in step 8 we determined that they weren't 100% effective. So you can see the cyclic nature that we're proposing here, and the value here really is the fact that it's recurring. And I want to emphasize this as well, that the recurrence of a consistent framework within a water plan cycle, there is tremendous value in framing something up that has that lasting power through subsequent cycles. And so that's what I wanted to wrap up on that note and offer you a suggestion in terms of our long view. So you can see this in this diagram on the left. You can see those state initiatives that I talked about coming into the process of Update 2018. You can see steps A through D on the bottom left that show it's shorthand for the 8 components I just showed you. But this really illustrates, I think, the cyclic nature of what we're proposing. And again, what I want to emphasize here is you can see the diameter of that ribbon increasing for 2023, 2028. The point there is that we're getting more robust data. We're learning more from the actions that we took in the preceding plan. We're adapting our and evolving our recommendations to be more effective. So the point is, with each cycle, you actually get a more robust and more effective plan by using this consistent framework that we're proposing that we're going to use for Update 2018. And then lastly, I'll just point out, if you can see that in between Update 2018 and 2023 and then 2028, we've indicated our intent to create our annual Sustainability Outlook Report, or progress tracking, for those of you that prefer that terminology. The point is there that annually we need to track on a shorter time step than the 5-year cycle of the water plan. Why? Because funding decisions occur on an annual time step in many cases. Policy, legislative sessions occur on an annual time step, more so than the 5 years. So in order for the water plan itself to be more effective, we need to be more on the spot and more sensitive to how legislation and spending occurs, and inform it more proactively as situations unfold, as opposed to doing the 5-year time step. The 5-year time step will keep an eye on the long view. It'll recalibrate our shared outcomes every 5 years and make sure that they're still consistent and up to date. However, that annual feature, I believe, will be immensely valuable in informing policy as it unfolds. So that's also a significant new feature of the water plan. And with that, that concludes my description of the focus of Update 2018. I know we have time for some questions, if there are any.
Yeah, this is Kamyar.
Thank you.
Please, certainly using your chat function, write in or put your hand up if you prefer to share it with the webinar participants verbally. As you're thinking about your questions, what I'd like to do is continue with the next agenda item. Also, we're going to be, we'll have a more extended public comment period during the webinar. And one of the things you saw Paul lay out were some of the challenges that we have observed and heard and are underpinning the approach for Update 2018. Maybe you would also like to share what you see as challenges as we prepare Update 2018, and would like to share that with others on the webinar during the public comment period. So having seen no questions at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Lou Moeller, and he'll kind of lay out some of the construct or process for the Policy Advisory Committee for Update 2018.
All right, thank you, Camille. So I'm on the web page right now, so I'll kind of navigate you through to the meeting materials. Most of my presentation today is available through those meeting materials, and I could stop if any comments come in or questions come in. In there, I have the Policy AC charge, which I'm highlighting now, and I'll go into that. I also want to note that there's the Bagley-Keene Act, and I'm going to talk about that as part of your charge as well. But we are covered by the Bagley-Keene Act. In fact, I'm going to click on that real quick. And this is something that you can look at. It's from the Attorney General's office, and it's a handy guide to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, which we are governed by because we are a statutory body. Back to the meeting materials, I'll go into the Policy AC charge. And this is basically providing you with what we're expecting in your role as a Policy AC member. And I'm going to read just one here. It says, the role of the Policy AC is to provide representative perspectives and advice to DWR in the preparation of the California Water Plan. And they also assist in communicating and advancing water plan goals, objectives, and recommendations. They're served by invitation of our director, DWR's director, and also our deputy director is responsible for the production of this thing and serves as the executive sponsor. That's slow. So the roles and responsibilities here is laid out for you, and that is to act as a liaison to communicate information to and from your organizations, act in a manner that enhances trust amongst your fellow members, contribute data information to clarify issues and assumptions, act collaboratively and seek common ground where possible, and probably important is to attend these meetings and attend the annual plenary meetings as well, and act in good faith. I think that goes without saying almost, but we said it anyway. The water plan team is going to support this, and we'll provide staff support as needed and professional facilitation for the meeting. Collect and organize data. We'll draft up text for your review. We'll provide technical support to the effort as well. We'll provide the physical arrangements for the various meetings, and we're actively doing that for the plenary coming up here as well. And we'll provide requested information that you come up with. Our executive sponsor agrees to provide the resources for this effort, and in consultation with other state agencies, provide policy perspective of the administration, and then provide overall direction to us. Probably important to you all is the time commitment. I think we've expressed this to you before, but we're anticipating we'll convene 2 to 3 times a year for the Policy AC. Oh, that's right. Oh, I almost need to highlight this better, but we also have, we're going to be engaging other state agencies through a state agency steering committee. We'll also in California Native American tribes and organizations and a tribal advisory committee. And the tribal AC is going to provide those perspectives on land, water, and culture is included in that discussion. And in fact, you heard from CAMYAR that they're going to be having a similar type of orientation webinar on the 19th. Again, going back to the time commitment, 2 to 3 times per year through the end of 2018. We may have additional briefings and updates via conference call and webinar should we need it. And we also have 3 annual plenary meetings, so one of which is on the 25th, directly following the first meeting. We're hoping that you will attend. So if not, and I've provided my contact information here that you can contact me if you're unable to attend or if you're planning to send an alternate. We have some information on disclosure here. There is going to be times when we're going to have some conflict between what the water plan deliberations are, that your position as a member of your normal organization may be in conflict with what we're doing. We like to hear what those conflicts might be, and so that we can note them as well. We have ultimately our executive sponsor will note where there are areas of disagreement or agreement. We'd like to seek as much agreement as we can in this, but at the same time, the executive sponsor will consider all these things in what goes forward. So now I'm going to go back to meeting materials here. In here we also have our work plan. And then I'm going to, after this, I'll go with our schedule at a higher level than this. So the work plan is available to you to see what we're covering at different times in the schedule. This is some of the deliverables and the content at each of these meetings along the way. As you can see, we're having this meeting right now. It's the orientation webinar. On the 25th, we're going to have a policy AC meeting. We'll be covering this material here. We also, on the 25th, we're going to have a plenary there as well, and so we'll be going through even more. We are trying to be as respectful of your time as we can. We put this on the same day so that we can, hopefully engage you for a day and then cover that as well. The future meetings, we've provided some what we expect in the way of different aspects, and this will make more sense after the next policy AC meeting and plenary, what these chapters actually look like. Right now, you're going to see just what the titles are, but hopefully we'll elaborate on that a little bit. But there is deliverables that are intermixed through here and what you can expect for us to provide. The January 2018 is the preview of the public review draft. We'll have, and that'll be before we actually make the release of that as well, and the public comment period comes in. And then we're going to have a joint policies AC and tribal AC meeting in August 2018. And then finally we'll be wrapping up towards the end. Our last year, there's a lot of work done between these different drafts that we have to do, but there's a little bit of a required interaction that we have to do to get things finished. So a lot of our work is going to occur before January 20, the public review draft. Let's see.
And if you're online with us, in your handout part of your webinar panel, there's a copy of the work plan as well as a copy of Bagley King.
So this is essentially that same information that I've provided to you in that work plan, which is very more detailed, but this kind of shows you the layout of where these different meetings happen. I think not in the work plan was the Tribal Water Summit that we're anticipating right now for May 2018, which will be a very large event that we put on each water plan cycle. And as you can see, the public review draft this last year of 2018 is a lot of work is done in responding to comments and getting things wrapped up and in final format. So our big lift is coming from today until 2018. For water plan staff, it's a little scary right now. But anyhow, we'll get through it. with that, I'm going to hand off to Jimmy. Oh.
Yeah, we got one question from a member with the California Council of Science and Technology, and it's about AB 1755, which was just signed by the governor, calling for the development of a water and environmental data exchange platform, and it directs the lead to be the Department of Water Resources in partnership with a number of other entities like the Water Quality Monitoring Council. And the question is, what would be the nexus of the work that's being called for in AB 1755 and the content that is included in Update 2018? And so Art Hinojosa is here. I know he's been very involved in this AB 1755 effort, so maybe I'll turn it over to you, Art, see if you would like to say a few words on what you see as far as EWR's work on AB 1755, and how does that data sharing platform relate or help Update 2018?
Well, I don't know that it helps Update 2018 in and of itself. I mean, our objectives with the implementation of 1755 is to do as the statute requires, and that's avail to the public as much water data and ecosystem data as possible. And it's going to take a while to get there as well. I mean, the first threshold is to put our own state data online in a sort of a one-stop shop. Much of this data is already available. It's just complicated and problematic to get to. You've got to go to many different databases, or you've got to make special requests, and the overarching goal of the act was to just make it easy for people to find and acquire this information. That said, to the extent that we collect more data and refine it and can process things for the water plan, well, that becomes part of our data sets that are available through this tool. But the tool in and of itself, well, ultimately it affords us the ability to get information more readily for our updates to the water plan and all our activities. And that's part of the main goal, is so that everyone can see as much as possible and make more informed decisions.
And this Kamyar, and I think one of the first big deliverables is around 2018, 2019, correct? As far as when some of the when the platform would be developed and data would start being accumulated on it. For those who've been following, so thank you, Art. I think that's helpful. It's actually a very big deal for the Department of Water Resources, because we collect and manage a lot of data, as do other state agencies, and in the concept of better alignment of plans and policies and regulations, I think almost a prerequisite is the alignment of the information that would help make better decisions along those lines. And for those who've been following the water plan update 2009 and then also 2013 included recommendations along the lines of data and analytical tools. And in 2013, we also included an objective and actions along water technology and science. And the California Council for Science and Technology, or CCST, was a close partner in working with us on that. One of the recommendations of the water plan has been develop what we call Water PI, or the Water Planning Information Exchange, which is in concept and essence what AB 1755 is calling for. So it's really nice that we now see in law something that the water plan had recommended as much as 7-8 years ago.
I just got some information from Chris saying that the platform needs to be up and running by September of 2019.
Okay. So hopefully then the water plan would have recommendations along the lines of how could that platform better support that curlicue cycling cycles that Paul Becerra showed, because each cycle starts with an assessment of what's been done in the past along the lines of meeting our intended outcomes, and assessments do better when you have good information and completer information. So I think that data platform and information platform, exchange platform, could actually help make our assessments more robust as we go along. So thank you for that question. And so with that, I'm going to ask Jenny Marr to give us a preview of what's happening on October 25th.
Good morning, everyone. I know you've heard a little bit about the upcoming meeting from other presenters, but I'm going to kind of close the meeting with an additional plug for folks to attend and describe in a little bit more detail what we'll be talking about. So upcoming on the morning of October 25th will be the first face-to-face meeting of the Policy AC group. It'll be at the Tau Auto Museum here in Sacramento. The museum will be open to all participants throughout the day. It's closed that day, so everyone is free to enjoy the museum in addition to these meetings. At the inaugural Policy AC meeting, we'll do a deeper dive and have more discussion on some of the ideas and concepts you've heard today. We'll talk about, in a little bit more detail, the context of Update 2018, including drivers of change and recent initiatives like the Water Action Plan and Sustainable Groundwater Management. We'll go a little bit deeper into the focus of 2018, including envisioning California water sustainability and identifying intended outcomes for water management. We'll recap the Policy Advisory Committee plan and schedule just for folks who were not able to attend today's webinar or the webinar that we held on Tuesday. And lastly, we'll preview some of the meeting topics from the plenary, which will directly follow the inaugural Policy Advisory Committee meeting. Just to let everyone know, the draft agenda has been posted on the meeting materials website. I believe Lou has also sent a link to all the Policy Advisory Committee members. And there's also an ENews blast on Wednesday that talked about the upcoming plenary meeting and the inaugural PAC meeting. I believe staff have checked the ENews mailing list to make sure that all Policy Advisory Committee members are receiving that ENews, but for members of the public and other stakeholders on the phone, we encourage you to join the ENews if you have not already. So following the inaugural Policy Advisory Committee meeting will be the first Update 2018 plenary. We encourage all PAC members to stay for the plenary. When you RSVP for the plenary, which can be done online, you'll have an option to pick lunch. So because it's an all-day meeting and the meeting starts at lunchtime, you'll have choices for lunch, but you can also bring your lunch, or folks that are not coming to the PAC meeting, you are free to eat before as well. So lots of options here, but we encourage you to RSVP online, which I think Lou is going to show you where to do that, and let us know your lunch options. Please feel free to come early as well and enjoy the museum. So at the plenary, we'll be talking about the evolution of Water Plan Update 2018 and how we're building on Update 2013. Update 2018 will report on implementation of the California Water Action Plan, develop a 5-year investment strategy and finance plan, and recommend long-term state policy and investment priorities for water management. Paul kind of walked through some of that in his presentation today, but we'll do a deeper dive and have panel discussions and tabletop discussions to explore these concepts a little bit more in detail. Fundamental to Update 2018 is developing a common understanding of sustainable water management in California. So we'll have a little deeper dive conversation about what sustainability means. And invited speakers for the plenary include secretaries of the California Natural Resources Agency, California Department of Food and Ag, and Cali, PA. We'll also have the director and deputy director of DWR, update 2018 managers who you've heard from today, and additional program staff from DWR and other state agencies. We anticipate doing a phone survey during the plenary. We're currently testing out software and room capabilities, so we hope to do the survey. So in anticipation of a potential phone survey, we ask that everyone bring your new iPhone, your flip phone, your smartphone, your phablet to participate in a text-based survey. The survey will be done to inform how well sustainability is defined at the state and regional level and get some further input on significant challenges within water management in the state. And lastly, we do have, as mentioned previously, on the 19th, a Tribal Advisory Committee webinar. It'll be very similar to this meeting and the previous webinar on Tuesday, but will be focused on the charge of the Tribal AC.
Thank you, Jenny. And for those who are on the webinar, Lou Moeller was showing the registration RSVP link for the plenary meeting online, and this was in the Water Plan ENews on Wednesday. If you haven't had an opportunity to do so and plan to attend, please take a minute or two to register online so that we can get a good head count, in particular if you would like to have lunch provided or prepared for you there.
The other thing is the team is going to be making handouts, and it's really important for us to have a good count so that we can make sure there's sufficient copies for the people that have RSVP'd.
Very good. And so Jenny did mention that it's at the Auto Museum, and that because we have the whole museum for the day, participants can also take the opportunity during breaks or before or after the meeting to look at the automobiles. And back in what became 2005, when I first started on the water plan, as many of you know, we did a significant overhaul of how the water plan was fixed, and one of the sayings was, "This isn't your father's water plan." And so we are trying to find a 1957 Oldsmobile at the Auto Museum, and to my surprise, they said they can even drive a car up to the stage. So you might see me come drive on stage in a 57
drive the secretary
Oldsmobile, and it'll be fitting because I too was born in 1957, so we're the same age as the water plan. So with that, I don't know that I'm seeing any questions, but again, we're now at the public comment portion of the webinar. I invite anyone who's on the webinar who would like to comment, share idea, a suggestion, or a question with us and the other participants to do so now. Please either raise your hand on the webinar dashboard or submit a comment. And maybe I'll just give you 30 seconds to think. If we have that Jeopardy, sound, ting, ting, ting. And then ending early is really always acceptable and appreciated, so we can also end the meeting early. Okay, not seeing any other comments or topics. What I'd like to do is then just make a few concluding remarks. Did we get one? All right, okay. We got a comment.
This is about irrigated lands.
Okay, so it says, will orders such as the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program and the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act be combined? So one thing I'd like to underscore is the California Water Plan is required, its preparation by law. DWR is required to update it every 5 years. The Water Code also goes on to say the water plan has no mandates and no automatic appropriations of funds. And I've always thought of that as a balance of powers in California, where the legislature wants the executive branch to prepare the plan, yet the legislature wants negotiations on what are the priorities and what gets funded from the recommendations in the plan. So the water plan cannot combine or make those changes, yet recommendations about regulations and laws, as you saw, are one of the focal points of this update of the water plan. So we certainly want to have those conversations, and we will include information about that. We also, a part of that alignment of state agencies is underscoring that the Department of Water Resources and the State Water Resources Control Board are sister agencies, and that we've been working together on the 09 and the 2013 plan. We'll be working on the 2018 plan together. And what I keep advocating is the important part is getting the policy consistent. And once state agencies and state government has consistent policy direction, each agency can then invoke those tools and authorities that it already has, whether it be providing technical or financial assistance, oversight and regulatory constructs, and but doing so in a consistent way around a consistent policy. So the water plan is a prime and a good venue to have those conversations. And so I think the intent or the question really does, I would say, yes, we want to have those conversations, yet the water plan in and of itself can't combine those things.
I have a question about whether or not people can come to the advisory committee if they're not a member of the group.
Absolutely. So as I noted earlier, and I'll reiterate, all policy advisory committee policy advisory committee meetings are open to the public. Because the advisory committee is called out in statute, it is guided by the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, and as it has been the case, all policy advisory committee meetings are open to the public, as are the plenary meetings. So we encourage participation, and as today, there will be opportunities for public comment during those meetings.
If somebody wanted to send some information regarding overlapping regulations or things that they would like the water plan to consider, who would they send it to?
The water plan has a general comment email, and Lou is going to pull that up now, and that would be the best and most efficient way to submit any information, questions, comments to the water plan team. And Francisco is now going to show you. There it is, public comment right on our website. And there's the email, cwpcom@water.ca.gov. So please send us that information.
And if you register for the webinar and you can't find this again, just reply to the webinar email that you received, and we'll get you to the right link.
Okay. Any other questions, Lisa?
People are saying thank you.
Well, thank you. And so what I'd like to do is take this opportunity to thank the Policy Advisory Committee members for accepting the invitation from our director. I know that you're very busy, and we're appreciative that you will dedicate and allot some of your time and efforts to making this update of the water plan even better. I also want to thank members of the public and other participants on this webinar for taking time to join us. I hope that you will continue to follow the water plan and contribute at meetings and in other ways. So we've encouraged you to come to the 25th meeting, both the morning and the afternoon. We've shown you the RSVP registration link. Please take time to use it. And I'm really jazzed because this webinar today and Tuesdays is the kickoff for engaging stakeholders and the public in Update 2018. This has been a great journey over the last 15, 16 years for me, and I really look forward to coming up with an Update 2018 that even builds on that work. So with that,
should we thank our presenters?
I would thank our presenters.
And if you're online, you can clap virtually with your hand clapping.
And seeing no other questions, we're going to go ahead and adjourn, and I look forward to seeing you on October 25th. Thank you very much.